What's up, Vol Nation? Hope everyone's doing well. Because of the graphic nature of some content discussed in this episode, Zach and I have decided to issue a content warning. So, anybody who is of a younger listening demographic or may feel uncomfortable when some graphic and uncomfortable scenarios are discussed that may relate to kidnapping, this is your chance to turn off this episode. No shame, just tune into the next episode. We try to deal with these matters as frankly as possible, knowing that they are a difficult subject to discuss. We're not trying to make light of them in any way. And we hope you can enjoy this episode with Travis. It was a good one, and we very much enjoyed it. So if you'd like to tune in, here is the Black Phone.
Hi, I'm Ben.
And I'm Zach.
Welcome to the Movie Vault.
Yes, and today we have a very, very special guest, someone who I very much look up to. He's great. He's a very good Christian guy, goes to our church. His name is Travis. We love him. We're glad he's here. We've been meaning to get him on. Great talker, and welcome, Travis.
Thank you. Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Ben. I'm happy to be on. Glad that you guys finally invited me on. And I plan to talk as much as I possibly can in order to, get something started. Let's do it.
All right. With that, so Travis, I'm going to ask you a few questions about yourself. So, because we know a lot about you already, Travis, personally, Zach and I, but the millions and myriads of people that listen to our podcast have no idea who you are. Yeah. So, my first question is, what genre of movie do you tend to watch? What's your go-to genre?
That is a great question. So I would say this. I typically like all genres, but if I had to choose, it would be thriller/suspense. So what a lot of people may refer to as psychological thrillers.
Okay, yeah.
I love those genres.
Like Silence of the Lambs?
Yes.
Or like this movie.
Like this, yeah this movie is more in the psychological thriller. Okay. So now that we know the genre that you like the most, what's your all-time favorite movie or a couple of all-time favorites?
So my all-time favorite would be, it's a few. I can name a few. So I'm also a heroic type person. I love The Patriot with Mel Gibson.
Okay, yeah.
That is a great movie. I love the plot. I love the storyline. I love the actor. I love how it ends. And I will also say outside of that, the movie, what is it? Lone Survivor.
Oh, yeah.
With Mark Wahlberg.
Okay, yeah.
Another war movie, kind of more present than Mel Gibson's movie, The Patriot. I love Lone Survivor. It is one of my favorite movies. Yeah.
All right. And my final question for the people to get to know you is, what are some of your favorite hobbies besides watching movies? Obviously, that's probably number one. I'm just kidding. But what are some other hobbies that you like spending your free time doing?
No, you're not wrong. I mean, watching movies might be up there with hobbies. But outside of hobbies, I am a mixed martial artist. So I love doing Muay Thai. There's an art called Muay Thai. It's like kickboxing on steroids. So I love doing Muay Thai and I love doing boxing, which are all martial arts, and working out. I love doing those two things as hobbies.
Well, Travis, I've known all those things about you. I feel good that I know those things because that means we're actually good friends. So anyway, but yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to set the stage. So Travis is a fighter, and so now we go into this movie with kids who don't have the same skill set as Travis, I would say, and are put in a kind of a terrifying situation. And that movie would be a movie that was just released this summer, The Black Phone, directed by Scott Derrickson, who was supposed to direct the second Doctor Strange.
But thank goodness he didn't, because this was pretty great.
Because that was not as good of a movie as this movie is. I'll say that already. So I'll just give a quick summary that I wrote. So if it's not good, you can blame me for writing it. So in Denver in the 1970s, a terrifying menace with black balloons in a black van has been kidnapping kids for over a year-ish, I believe. Finney is a young baseball player / nerd who lives in the shadow of his younger sister. He is confident yet complacent because he is often taken advantage of by bullies, except for he has his best friend Robin, who's like beats the crap out of this kid at the start of the movie. You kind of like, at first you're like, this kid seems like he's kind of a terrible person because he has no mercy, but I guess he's best friends with Finney, so he can forgive him. And Finney's life is for the most part going pretty good until Robin is kidnapped by the Grabber. So now he lost his best friend. Bullies can freely attack him, and the life is just kind of unstable. Also, his home situation is not the greatest either. His father is an alcoholic deadbeat who beats his sister, and he has like sort of a weird concept. Like, it's obvious that he sort of loves his kids, but in the same time, the alcohol and everything that's gone on is like, he often misplaces this love and it turns into violence, and it's just not the greatest home situation. So Gwen is Finney's sister, and she can dream about things that actually happen. She's had dreams about kids getting kidnapped by the Grabber. So this becomes especially important when Finney is abducted by the Grabber, and he finds himself in a dark room with only a black phone on the wall that's disconnected. And the Grabber claims that the phone is unusable, no point in even trying. But Finney soon finds out that dead kids who the Grabber has killed can call him from the phone and feed him information. So this stops him from falling into some of the traps that the other kids fell into that the Grabber set for them. He almost escapes once and fails, but he is further prepared by the kids in the phone, and we also flip back and forth between him and Gwen dreaming about different situations that lead her to where the house is. And the climax of the movie, spoiler alert, I guess I've already spoiled most of the movie. There's a climax where Finney and the Grabber wrestle, and Finney kills the Grabber. At the same time, Gwen and the police are finding the house, both the house where the dead kids were buried and the house across the street where the Grabber actually lives. And at the end of the movie, Finney gets a girl and everyone thinks he's cool because he killed the Grabber. The end.
What a great ending that was.
Yeah. So my first, just to kick off the conversation, how did everyone like the overall concept of the movie, starting with Travis?
Ask question again.
Oh, the overall concept or plot of the movie. Like, how did you like it? Do you think it was a compelling concept?
I did. So one of the things that stood out to me is it took place in the 70s. So those of you that don't know about the 70s was a very unique time frame, because in the 70s, there was a lot of kidnappings and a lot of murders going on, specifically because a lot of the people, the way they lived their everyday life was not like the way we live our everyday life. So they didn't lock their doors. They hitchhiked. And the kids were allowed to be out and about more often, more frequent. So parents knew little to nothing about what their kids were doing throughout the day and throughout the evening when their kids were out and about. So if you're going to make a movie where there's this kidnapper who's a serial kidnapper who's kidnapping all the kids, the 70s will be a great genre to do it. So I enjoyed that part. I like the fact that it was made in the 70s. The overall part is, what I liked about it is that there was a little bit of science fiction / superstition. So I'm also a Marvel guy. I love superheroes. I love Captain America. So I enjoyed the fact that you had this sister who was just a regular human, but when she laid down and went to sleep, she had very unique dreams. And her dreams just so happened to solve crimes. I liked that. So those two, I would say, were the two main things that I noticed that I would say I enjoyed the most.
Okay. How about you, Zach?
I'm gonna be honest. I haven't watched a movie where I have been on the edge of my seat in a while. In this movie, I definitely was on the edge of my seat for like a lot of parts, and I was like, oh, like come on, like don't do that, like come on, do this instead. And I think the best part of this movie, and I think we're all about to agree, in my opinion, was Ethan Hawke's villainous role. Maybe you won't agree, but I think he was so great in this movie. I am scared of Ethan Hawke. If I see him on the street, I am running the other way, okay? Especially if he's wearing some weird mask, gray, terrible paper mache. I don't know what it's made of, but he's menacing in this movie, and he almost plays it to such a realistic way, except for there's one factor I don't think is realistic, which I can say later, but it's so realistic to the point where I'm like, I'm glad I'm not a kid anymore, man.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad I'm not a kid. I'm not living in the 70s. I'm glad everyone's paranoid, okay? I'm glad we live in this society where nobody talks to each other and everybody's isolated and nobody trusts anyone. It's all like, burn the witch, whatever our society is these days. I'm glad it's not that, okay? I don't ever want to be in a situation like that. That kid is way braver than I would ever be, okay? Maybe not Travis, but way braver than myself.
Maybe so. He is.
Yeah.
He might be way braver than I am.
There's a couple of things that stood out to me. The concept's very cool. I think I agree with Zach that Ethan Hawke is the best part of the movie. The Backstage Cinema pointed out on their episode that they just had an episode about Ethan Hawke, is that Ethan Hawke doesn't play villainous roles that often. I haven't watched Moon Knight, but he was a villain in Moon Knight from what I heard. But other than that, like he's in like Dead Poet Society and like he's in a couple westerns.
Training Day.
Wait, what'd you say?
Training Day.
Training Day. But this is the first like legitimately scary Ethan Hawke performance that at least maybe has been popularized that I've seen. I mean, he knocked it out of the park. It was incredible. And the comparison that I made it to is that so there's this horror movie on Netflix called Creep, and there was a lot of like mannerisms that I could see from the sort of villainous character in Creep that I also saw in this, like especially with the mask stuff. And the wolf, when he puts the wolf mask on in Creep, and then the mask things, and when he's sitting at the top of the stairs with his shirt off and the belt, and he says stuff like, he wants you to play naughty boy, and it's just like,
when I was in theater, I was
cringe
like, oh, no.
so bad, like it's just, but that's something that they would say in Creep, like that is like textbook, and I have no idea whether Creep influenced Scott Derrickson at all. But we also get some Scott Derricksonisms, because if you've ever seen the movie Sinister, that movie uses a lot of like grainy, like found footage that portrays like murders. This movie also used a lot of like grainier, like home video type shots. They weren't used quite in the same way, but you can see that like Scott Derrickson, part of how he wants to make his style, obviously Doctor Strange doesn't count because that was a Marvel movie, but is that he likes to use these sort of grainier shots to present part of the story. Like we get to go in and see what another kid was like, and then we see, oh, this is a dream. It's one of the most interesting ways, or unique ways at least, that I've seen a dream portrayed in a movie. Yeah. And I think people have pointed out that there's a few plot holes, and some people say that they wish the grabber would have been in more of the movie, and they spent a lot of time like developing the kids. But honestly, I thought the kids were both very well acted, and I wanted to see the kids develop in the movie, and it probably made the climax all the more dramatic when we could see this timid kid all of a sudden take on this like monstrous villain who, like, at the end of the movie literally kills his brother in cold blood because he found out his secret.
Yeah.
That's one of the craziest like twists that they threw in, was that the brother Max was actually like hunting for the guy. Yep. But he's doing coke and stuff, so his mind.
And we didn't know that.
Yeah. We didn't know that until the end of the movie.
I actually figured that, like, that was pretty obvious to me.
Right, but you watched like 130 horror movies.
But like I think one of it was like, I think he was staring at a street, and it was like that street.
Yeah.
I think that was at the beginning of the movie, like on his board. So I think that's when I figured it out. And at the beginning of when it first shows Max, and the cops come to the door, the camera pans down to the basement where he's at.
That's right. Okay, so it wasn't exactly a twist.
Yeah.
It was more that we didn't know. Like, I thought he was kind of in on it. I didn't know that he was completely clueless.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of the twist.
Yeah.
Like,
or that he'd die, you know?
Yeah.
Same here. I didn't think that he was clueless, like we discovered that he was, but in reality, he had no clue.
Yeah, true.
Which was so much more interesting to me because of what I initially thought. Another thing that I want to say that was interesting is it wasn't the story itself wasn't as violent. So typically, because I watch a lot of crime investigation shows, investigation discovery, things like that, and in real life, there's situations where the young boy was raped or the young boy was assaulted in some way. This young boy in this movie, nothing happened to him. He was literally just left in the basement with a mattress and a phone.
That was my one thing that I said that was not realistic.
Yeah.
Is that he wasn't raped.
Yeah. So typically what would happen is there's some assault that goes on. You know, there's stories that I've just recently watched where young boys was kidnapped and they were definitely raped continuously. And I know that's hard for us to accept, but when I watch movies like this, being used to watching crime shows, I'm looking for it. Mm-hmm. So when it didn't happen, I was happy because I didn't have to watch it, but I was also thinking to myself, like, okay, this is unrealistic, because typically when creepy psychopath guys kidnap a kid, they're doing it for a purpose, and the purpose is not only to wait until they walk up the stairs so they can get whooped.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more to it than just what we've seen. So I was very amazed with that.
So I think that, yeah, that's true, but that this is where they take the Hollywood creative liberty, because obviously, had there's no way that they could make that decision. It would have just taken the movie to a darker place than was necessary for the audience. And so that's obviously why, I mean, the main reason why they decided not to do that. But also, they get to paint the grabber as this, like, bizarre, he's not your regular psychopath. Like, now you have to wonder, okay, he's not like all of the people that we've seen on crime investigation shows.
Right.
So, like, what is it that causes
What's
him
his motive?
What's his motive to be like, I want to set traps and play this game where they disobey, not that he, like, necessarily sets the rules, but, and then he punishes them. So, like, if and he would have probably fallen for all the same traps had he not been able to call, the dead kids on the phone. But
the dead kids call him.
Oh, the dead kids call him, yeah, on the phone. And so then you wonder, you're like, what happened in this guy's life that turned him to be this way? Was he, like, stunted? So, I guess you think, like, naturally that he was abused as a kid or something like that. But it gives them this whole mysterious lore and mystique. And so for the people who are sort of wondering, like, oh, I want a backstory for this guy or whatever, I kind of wonder whether if you went too far into the backstory, or it would actually kind of, because it's the intrigue of, like, why is this guy this this absurd?
Yeah.
And why does he have to play this game? It's kind of like a cat and mouse thing, though, right? Where, like, the cat doesn't just kill the mouse. He, like, plays with him for a little bit, and then he kills him. Yeah. So that seems to be sort of what's going on. That probably doesn't happen that often in real life.
Yeah.
Like that. But
unfortunately, it does not. Unfortunately, based off the situations I've witnessed, not from a personal perspective, but from afar, just watching these real life documentaries, is what I've noticed is people, if they were to let the person go eventually, they want something out of that time. So, for example, if I'm the psychopath that wants to kidnap kids randomly, but my goal is to eventually let them go, well, I'm going to rape them repeatedly. And it just so happened that I just watched a show that happened to. There's a guy that's in his 40s right now that told the story of when he was 13 years old. He was kidnapped and he was raped for 7 days. and the guy eventually left him alone, tied up, and he just so happened to peek his head out of the cage that he was in and see people walking past, and that's how he escaped. But for that individual, the perpetrator, the suspect, the person who kidnapped him, he actually wanted something. He didn't just want to kidnap someone and leave it at that. As he had this person in his possession, he raped him. And he loved the control that he was in while doing it. So there's not too many situations where someone actually kidnaps a kid or kidnaps a person and just keeps them down in their basement, safe and sound, feeding them, not doing anything. So it's a very unlikely situation to happen.
Yeah, and plus it's incredibly unlikely that there's a guy who wears this ridiculous mask that goes back and forth between frowning and smiling. Like, I was just thinking, I was like, this is like so elaborate. There's no way that there's a kidnapper who's putting this much thought into, because this is like a guy making a movie who's putting the thought into this. But I had this interesting thought. So there's all kinds of, like, horror is known for like its villains essentially, and like the Grabber is kind of an interesting one because the Grabber is never going to be, you know, Freddy Krueger or Jason Voorhees or any of those guys, because they are like, I don't know how to describe them. They're just like they just kill. They don't do this kidnapping stuff. They don't, like, nothing like that. And he's also not as Freddy Krueger kind of like, he would make quips and stuff, and Jason, there's this whole lore and mythos with his mask, and Michael Myers, you know, they're kind of the insane people who get out of the asylum. So as far as like horror movie villains, where do you like put this villain that was crafted in this movie? Like, is he an higher tier villain in terms of his performance, or is he just kind of like your average you know, person who does bad things?
I like Ethan Hawke, so he'd probably be pretty much up there. But like you said, Jason, Freddy, you know, all these people, they transcend their movies. They're in popular culture.
Well, in some ways, they're like better than their movie.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. We just watched Nightmare on Elm Street. I agree.
Although I do like that movie a lot.
It's funny.
Yeah.
But like, they're not really that scary. I was genuinely scared by Ethan Hawke.
That's true.
I wasn't scared when Freddy Krueger sliced open his nipple and weird green stuff came out. Okay, I'm not scared of that at all. I'm not scared of these weird monsters. Like, I'm not even scared of Vecna from Stranger Things. I'm scared of Ethan Hawke putting me in his basement with, you know, the future threat of worse things happening that end up not happening, which was great for his character, but and for his public image probably. Ethan Hawke, maybe there was stuff in the script and Ethan's like, I'm not doing that.
Well, they just could. I mean they could. I don't know if you've ever, the movie Mystic River handles some of the stuff like this, and there's a very like tactful way you have to like work that into a movie, and that still has the impact without it being like overly harsh.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't make sense for this movie.
Not
what makes sense.
Not a movie where the main draw is Ethan Hawke wearing a mask in the trailers.
Exactly.
But I also think it was cool because whether or not it's realistic, I didn't think it was super realistic, but I mean, I thought it was realistic. But aside from that part, Ethan Hawke's portrayal was realistic in my opinion. But aside from that, he's psychologically different. He has, you know, obviously he has problems, but he's playing a weird game where he is a different person when he puts the mask on. That's why I think he's changing the mask. Whether he's happy or sad, he fits the mask to his character that he wants to portray. At the end of the movie, when his mask falls off, he starts screaming because his face is shown. He uses, you know, his strength to cover his face from the child, from Finney. And so he is deep, when he is outside of his house, he is a different person than when he is wearing the mask, you know? So, and that's actually a complex that people have, you know? They feel like they're, anonymous almost when they're wearing a mask. Like, it's just a natural thing for humans to do when they're in larger groups or when their faces aren't shown. Then they feel like they can get away with more. This is why people that, you know, riot, break into places, stuff like that, wear masks a lot of times, you know? It's actually a human phenomenon. I think that was cool. That's not what, you know, they were going for. But it was cool to see, like, that he actually was attached to that mask. He probably wasn't comfortable in the mask because he took the top part off. He took the bottom part off, you know, in different parts of the movie. He put happy and sad face. And it really did show, like, Even when he was in public, he was wearing clown makeup, like a magician clown makeup. It was weird. Like he looked cool. Like he honestly looked like a scary guy, but it was weird. He's trying to play this. What's the clown guy that kills everyone in the
Pennywise?
80s? No, in the 80s. And he's a real guy, the Candyman.
Oh.
Yeah, I can't remember his actual name.
I can tell you right now.
It reminded me of that. That guy was a clown that for kids' birthday parties and would kill kids and bury them underneath his house. I think there's some influence from that. There's something. I mean, he's using balloons, although black balloons. He's wearing clown makeup when he kidnaps the children. The only thing is he has a very conspicuous van. He has
His name is John Wayne Gacy.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah. I've heard his tapes. They released some of his tapes on Netflix. And from what I've heard, they're just like so hard to like sit through and watch because he's so unremorseful.
Oh, I watched.
Like he has absolutely no remorse for his crimes.
Terrible.
Yeah. No regrets in anything he did. Maybe not till the very end. I don't know. But he was very proud of what he did, which was terrible, even though he wouldn't admit it. But I really like. We can get into Ethan Hawke, but he was amazing because you didn't really know what he was going to do in the next moment. Wouldn't you agree, Travis? It was kind of just like he was so unpredictable of what he was going to do. You're going to be like, is he going to pretend to let him go? You know, he left the door open. Did he mean to do that? You know?
Did he mean to fall asleep? No, I don't think so. Because I think the kids tipped him off.
True. Or
that he didn't.
Did he mean to leave like the rug in there? Did he mean to leave the wire? I mean, he maybe didn't see the wire. But there are a lot of things like why didn't he notice that the bars in the window were gone?
Yeah, that was one of the strangest things. Is like he was doing all this stuff, messing with the room, putting the rug out, and it's like he just didn't either ignored it or didn't notice it.
I also think it was a stressful week for him because he was going between two houses. He probably wasn't staying with his brother. His brother's there. He doesn't like when his brother's there. And he said that it wasn't going well outside of the house. So I think it was a stressful time. He said everything's not going to plan. So I think it was just a fluke that Finn was given the circumstances to get out. Otherwise, Ethan Hawke would have been in full control, right? So,
yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, and I think that's a great question, Ben, that you presented. Ethan Hawke, I would say, for one, like I agree with you guys to say that he was a great villain in that movie. He was very scary. The reason why I think he was scary is because I think it was realistic to a certain extent. So like I said, it took place in the 70s. And if we know anything about historical murders, even John Wayne, like we just mentioned, the clown, his crime practically took place in the late 70s, early 80s. So I would say that the reason why he was so scary is because we can relate to it to a certain extent because we know it's somewhat realistic. If not somewhat realistic now, it was once upon a time somewhat realistic then. So I think that's why he was so scary. And to your point, Zach, I would agree that he's way more scarier than Jason or Freddy. Because although we've throughout our talk, we've made the case that this movie was unrealistic. With that being said, it's far more realistic than a person coming to us and killing us in our dreams. And this guy that's wearing a hockey mask can never die, regardless of how many times you shoot him, how many times you stab him. Like, that's far more unrealistic than this guy in a mask who's identifying himself to be this person who is trustworthy to a certain extent to kids, but at the same time, he's out to plot something harmful. Mm-hmm. In the black van, from the van that he had, to his way of inviting the kids closer to him, for him to snatch them up, was very realistic. So I think although it's unrealistic, I think there's some realistic things that we could say that's so more realistic to where it's scary to us because we believe that it can happen. And it did. Again, the 70s was known for kidnappings. Mm-hmm. Specifically kidnappings with little kids, unfortunately. So yeah, I think Ethan Hawke played so much of a good villain that we could say that he's probably on top of the most scariest villains.
Yeah, I agree. I just had this question pop up, Travis. I think you'll have a good answer. So during this movie, I felt the need, and I usually don't feel this need. I like to just watch, be a fly on the wall. I felt the need to jump in there and just beat the crap out of Ethan Hawke, because I loved this kid since the start of the movie. I thought he's a great big brother. I felt bad for him for being bullied. I can relate to him because he's a nerd, and he's got great, a friend that looks out for him. I don't know, whatever. You can be that, but I felt the need to just go in there and just kickbox, Muay Thai this guy out. Did you feel the need to insert your justice into this movie?
Oh, of course. I mean, I think it's inherent. It's for me, it's very natural, which is why I want to pursue law enforcement. It's very natural for me to see someone in need to want to do something about it, whether that's on a movie or whether that's in real-time news, whether it's me seeing something personally. So it's very natural for me to want to do something. So yes, I would agree with you. Everything in me wanted to do something to Ethan and to protect the kids. Yeah. And if I thought more about it, I probably would have got emotional. And because to the extent to where I want to protect, and I know I can't, that would have got me emotional. So yeah, to your point, I understand. I'm right there with you when it comes to watching something that extreme. And it is extreme. You watch a grown adult guy that's manipulating kids, who's murdered kids, who's now trapping a child, what 11, 12-year-old boy, against his will, and promising him that he'll never get out. So yes, I want to do something. I want to become Batman in that moment. And I want to rip the heart out of Ethan Hawke in that moment. And as I talk, Ethan Hawke didn't have a name.
Yeah, he's just a grabber.
He was just a grabber.
I don't even know if they called him that. That's just what people call him, when they're talking about the movie.
Which is let me say this. It's more interesting because serial killers, the media is who gives them their name. Mm-hmm. They don't just earn this name because they're doing this successfully and they're like, ooh, let me name myself this. Let me name myself the ice cream killer or Zodiac, whatever the case may be, the Zodiac killer. Like, the media is who names these guys. So for this guy to be the quote unquote grabber, it's interesting because and for Ethan Hawke not to have a name is also interesting. You know what else I've noticed? In the movie, we don't see his face.
Just one brief second at the end, but you're right.
For a brief second, we see it. But throughout the movie, we don't see Ethan Hawke's full face. And I think that's so interesting because it leaves us, the audience, in speculation.
Yeah, and
which I think is so interesting because it's so realistic to real life. And that's what I liked about the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we get to see, we see enough different parts of his face to where we can kind of figure what he looks like. But, our brain naturally does that. So maybe that was, a cognitive thing that Scott wanted to do. But yeah, I asked you that specifically because you're a lover of justice, Travis. I know I don't love justice as much as I should, but I felt the need to I was on the edge of my seat, just with my fist clenched, ready to punch Ethan Hawke and break my own arm.
The scene that got me was just when he had his shirt off with the belt. I don't know what it was about it, but he just looked so menacing, and you're just like, oh, I hate. And then you think about the fact that he beat those other 6 kids so badly. I mean, that from what they described, it sounded like it wasn't a few belt whips. It was like a horrible,
brutal,
almost to the death type of beating.
So they knocked out, right?
Yeah. What?
He said they got knocked out from the beating, right?
Yeah.
Jeez.
So it's just, and you're like, how could somebody do this to these kids? That's what really turns on that part of your brain that you're like. And you're right. The thing is, I've seen a lot of movies with extreme circumstances and stuff, but the stuff that involves the most vulnerable population of people being taken advantage of, children, those are going to be what are really kind of the actual most extreme situations. I mean, I mentioned Mystic River. That's a tough movie to watch, and it goes into a lot of other things. and then this movie. I mean, I can't think of that many movies because they're just not. It's hard to make them because it's so difficult for us to process. We kind of talked about this with the movie that it's the episode's coming out in the future, but we just did it. My Life as a Zucchini, where it's about kids who've gone through traumatic situations in their life, and so like. If you really think about it, it is kind of one of those things that really makes you get emotional and upset that this happened to these kids.
Especially the line at the end when he's calling his friend, right, Robin. And I was like, oh, when is Robin going to be on the phone? I was excited for when Robin was going to come on because you get all these different kids and you learn to like each of the kids, you know?
Yeah.
Through
even the kid who's
games.
like absolutely crazy.
Yeah. Let me make my point, then I have a question. So when Robin says, man, make my death worth it or something like that, you know, he's like, make it so I didn't die in vain. I was like, oh crap, man. Like,
and then showing them how to hit, step back and hit,
and then it was
like
just so satisfying
when it's a brutal death. Like he wraps the phone cord around his neck and snaps his neck. It's not like he puts like all like just another level of instinct to just, and he uses everything that he sort of set up. Like I don't even know how the one kid almost dug all the way out of, that seems like super unrealistic. Like digging with your hands, flushing it all out in the toilet. Like I don't know how he almost dug out, but he used that, and he used the string, and he used everything that was at his disposal, and then he finally uses the cord, which is obviously representative of all the other kids who all played a part really in the final, I guess, justice that we see.
And he says, it's for you. And then they all say the line that they've been repeating. And like the lines actually make sense now. Like it was for a reason. Which, I mean, it's an easy thing to write, but it was still cool, you know. But anyway, my question was, one of the kids, the one that was kind of rude and like brought out the knife and beat up the kid in the store from pinball game, he says, it's not about you. Why isn't it? What did he mean by that?
It's not about you.
He says it's not about you, and he throws the beer bottle at the wall, or not the beer bottle, the water, whatever, the glass. He says you need to get out of here, and he says, okay, I need to get out of here, and something like that. And he goes, it's not about you.
So is that still referencing like that he, like since he has the chance and he has the most ability of any of the kids because he can talk to all of them to be the one who finally serves justice to this guy, that he actually, it's strange because he did not ask to be put in this position. He is not signing up to be some sort of hero, you know. This was completely him, and yet this one kid, and maybe it's because it's his character to be kind of rude and stuff and mean spirited, but he's like, this isn't really about you or you only. It's also about the 6 dead kids who are in the house across the street. Which, in some senses, it's like you get this glimpse of humanity, and you do wonder, you're like, it doesn't actually really help those kids, but it helps kids in the future. Maybe that's more what he's referencing.
That was my theory.
Yeah.
Well, it helps solve their death.
Yeah.
Because up until that point, the kids it was a mysterious death.
Or closure for their families.
Yeah,
you're right.
It helps eliminate that what if. And I think that's what he meant. So for mysterious kidnappings and mysterious death, finding out or being that guy or person who eliminates that perspective, well, what it ultimately does, it helps brings clarity to how the other people before you passed. So typically what will happen with serial killers is once they're caught, other deaths throughout the years will come to surface.
Yeah.
And ultimately what it would do is, like you said, give clarity to the families, but it would also give clarity to how that individual died. To where up until that point, no one would ever know. So I think that's what he meant by that.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot more sense. I was just curious. I was like, well, he's not going to get back to life, so why does it matter?
Yeah.
I'm really having a rough time figuring out how to relate this to insurance, so I'm just going to go for it. So, as always, we're sponsored by Hedman Anglin Agency. They're known for saving you money on car and auto insurance, although if you own a black van, they probably won't insure you. If you want to save money, which everyone wants to save money, you should give them a call at 614-486-7300. That's 614-486-7300. And tell them that Ben and Zach sent you over.
And we're still, a cardboard cutout's still going. I don't know how long we're going to keep making this thing go. We got to end it sometime, right?
Yeah. I feel like, well, we still haven't gotten Anna her thing that we were supposed to get her.
Oh, yeah,
So
thanks,
we're
Anna.
not-
We didn't even announce that. Thank you, Anna.
We're not even like that known for fulfilling our promises on the podcast, but maybe one day we'll get her something and she won't expect it at all.
Maybe.
So I want to bring back a section of the podcast, not outsider reviews.
Okay.
So this actually got like really good reviews. Like, so Sinister was Scott Derrickson's other horror movie. He really hasn't directed that many movies, and Sinister's, I mean, as I've thought about it, Sinister's only like an okay horror movie. It's like, this movie is like, production-wise, quality-wise, acting-wise. I mean, that has Ethan Hawke in it too, Sinister. But everything about this movie is more compelling than Sinister is. Sinister has this whole, like found footage, demonic kind of thing going on. And it is really gritty and depressing, but there are definitely like some rough moments where you're like, oh, the quality of this movie is not all that good. But this movie, I think he stepped it up. Maybe he got some more funding, and so he could actually bring his vision to light. So Roger Ebert has passed away. He's a very famous movie critic, but his website is still alive. And I was very surprised when I went on the website. I didn't really read the whole review, but they gave it a 4, which is the highest score. They rate out a 4 on Roger Ebert. And I was very surprised by that, because they're known for, being like very snobbish and like only liking certain types of movies. And I know it's not actually Roger Ebert, so there's now like it's probably harder to judge how they're gonna rate it. But
It's like XXXTentacion. Everybody's making stuff for him.
or Juice WRLD or Mac Miller, you go down the list.
That's so wrong, I think.
Well, this movie. We're speaking of rap. This Black Balloons. That's a Denzel Curry song.
Oh, yeah.
Made me think of that.
Yeah.
But then not everyone is going to be pleased. So Edwin Arnadian of Asheville Movies said this movie was overly tame yet too nasty to watch.
What does that mean?
Which is I don't even know how to unwrap what that.
So two conflicting ideas in one
Yeah.
sentence.
So he's like, on one hand, it's not violent enough, but on the other hand, it's too violent.
I thought it was perfect. I thought it was Goldilocks
Yeah.
of movies.
Yeah,
Like, not too
I
hot,
agree.
not too cold. Yeah,
Yeah.
because you especially for this movie, you don't want to go too far in some parts, but you still present things in a way that is like you can get the gist of. I mean, it's like, they tone down movies for a reason. There's just some things that are unnecessary to show on the screen, but this movie kind of found that fit, I suppose. So, as far as speculation, do we think that now that this movie, I think I've heard it's pretty successful, are they going to do anything else with this grabber character, do you think? And if they, would you want them to?
No, because he's dead.
Yes, I would not want him to.
What about a prequel?
They could do something else similar.
Yeah.
So just as good or just as compelling, but not the same movie.
Yeah.
So if you want to do a horror or psychological thriller similar to get the same audience, do something similar, but not the same character.
Maybe cast Ethan Hawke in more villainous roles.
Yeah.
Is the way to go.
He was not a bad villain in Moon Knight.
He was not.
I liked him.
He was a good villain in Moon Knight.
Mm-hmm.
He had a deep voice. I like that too.
Commanding.
And I thought I'd finish up the kind of as our last topic of discussion, unless either of you have anything else you'd like to bring up, is go around and ask what everyone's favorite horror movie is.
I do have one thing.
Okay, go ahead before we do this.
Was the girl necessary?
In the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you
The
think
sister.
about it,
Yeah.
if you think about it, she didn't actually do anything because he already killed the grabber before the police came. But
But she did identify through her dream where he was at.
But couldn't he do that?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe she wasn't necessary.
I think she wasn't necessary, but she did such a good job, and it was nice to kind of flesh out the family dynamic. Although I do think it was a little bit like the end where the dad comes up and just like, I'm so sorry, like all of a sudden he's
Forced.
like,
I didn't
It's
like that.
Yeah, because it's like
I
it
did
would
not like
never
that.
be that simple. Like I know
It's not.
extreme-
Oh, we just forgive all the beatings and
Yeah.
torture you presented to us.
Yeah. So that was kind of like and with the girl, I don't know. There's a couple weird sequences where she was praying, and I don't know. It just got a little strange.
That was for comedy, but their relationship was great. I love that they included the girl. I was just curious why she was in the movie.
Yeah. I think it was like one of those things where in a lot of movies it would have been detracted from the movie because it doesn't really do that much other than add an interesting like
Sci-fi type deal.
like
Yeah.
superstitious aspect, like you were saying. But it does. I think
Kinda
it provided
add to
more-
it.
But yeah, add to it and provide more background.
Yeah.
It was just a medium to do that. It was kind of tricking you into thinking that she was gonna like do something at the end.
I thought she was going to answer the phone,
Yeah.
but no.
Yeah, I thought she was gonna somehow like be like the dead kid in the dream and like see him like go down somehow, but that didn't happen.
I think she adds to the suspense. That's it.
Yeah.
She was definitely a pagan religionist, and and I think her role primarily was to add to the suspense of the movie.
Yeah.
Did she help out in the long run? Yes, which we all appreciated her for. We all loved it.
Yeah.
Well, I did. But could she have not been in the movie? Yes.
Yeah. It just would have been slightly. We wouldn't have known that it wasn't as good, but it adds.
It's also
something
a
to
perfect
it.
runtime, wasn't it? Like an hour and a half ish.
Yeah, hour and 45.
I
Yeah.
love these types of movies.
I mean, hour and 10 for My Life as a Zucchini. That was like
That was good.
the best.
That was good. Okay, favorite horror movie?
Yeah. Who wants to start?
I'll go because Travis will have a better one.
I was just thinking about this today, so I have a well thought out
I think my
answer.
favorite horror movie is one called The Strangers. Okay, nobody's seen it. Yeah, just check it out. Watch the trailer. Early 2000s, couple in a cabin type of movie. Pretty good. Not the best. Like I know it's not the best quality. I enjoyed it. What about you, Trav?
So there's debate on whether or not this particular movie that I'm thinking of should be classified as a horror.
Maybe we can
or
have a
a
small
thriller.
discussion because I've also been thinking about this too. So, but go ahead, just say.
Yeah, but I would say as a kid, I watched it and it terrified me. Matter of fact, I don't think that's strong enough. It traumatized me
Oh,
as a child.
okay.
But as an adult, it's one of the better movies I've seen. And that movie is Sixth Sense.
Okay. Yeah. That movie terrified
It's a
me
great
when I was
movie.
like 14 years old, 15 years old.
Same
I was
here.
Terrified.
Same here. When watching it as a teenager, I'm terrified.
Okay.
Watching it as an adult, I'm like, man, this is a really good movie.
And that's interesting because I mean, we will not spoil the twist if you haven't seen it, but know that there is a twist. M. Night Shyamalan, that's kind of his whole deal.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you can like. I've only ever seen it once, so I only saw it not knowing the twist. Saw the twist, so I've never gone back and watched it like knowing the twist.
Yeah.
So it's
yeah.
interesting that like it's encouraging to hear that you can go back and watch it, and it's still a good experience even with knowing what happens at the end. That is always the sort of the tricky thing about those movies with
Yeah.
twists.
I think that could be a horror movie. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely a horror. I mean,
think it
horror
hit-
to the wrong person. Horror to a me as a teenager.
I think it kind of hits you at the end of the movie. The twist is what really horrified me.
Yep.
Like it was so unsettling. Like I don't know that I've ever had another like feeling like that
Yeah.
watching a movie.
Yeah.
I wish that everyone could experience that because it's
I
very.
I knew the twist before I watched
I know, I
it
figured
because
you-
it's so famous.
I know somehow
Everybody knows.
I was sheltered enough that I was able to stay. I'd never even heard of the movie when I
I've been
watched
too
it. I was watching.
exposed, man.
Yeah, same here. I wasn't sheltered at all, which is shame on my parents because that movie terrified me and hunted me for years until I became an adult and watched it and loved it.
Yeah. My favorite horror movie also maybe it's described, I looked it up, it's a psychological thriller horror. That's what they wrote it as. So I guess it has everything. It's a movie it only came out 2 years ago. It's called Possessor. And it is a really interesting combination of horror, sci-fi, body horror, sci-fi, and thriller. It's a movie that's about these people have developed technology that they can have one person go into somebody else. That's why it's called Possessor, in order to become an assassin. But then there gets to be some issue when you separate from the other person. You start to like meld together, and that's where it gets into the body horror stuff. and it's directed by David Cronenberg, who's sort of like the king of body horror movies. His son, Brandon Cronenberg. And I thought, when I watched it, and then I watched it again the next month because I was so like, I just kept thinking about it, and I had to watch it again. And even after the second watch, I think it has some very like shocking and kind of extreme moments. Like it's like pretty, I would say it's kind of surprisingly violent in some parts. And then the ending is like, it doesn't like spell it out for you, so you're kind of left like with this like wondering of like how like it happened. It leaves you to like kind of come to certain conclusions, and I like that kind of thing. I like it being like kind of loose in my head.
Yeah.
And so that, and then I mentioned Creep's probably up there also, as because I just feel like that's so realistic, like and I watched that movie and I'm terrified that would happen to somebody who was just fulfilling a Craigslist ad. And they stumble upon this guy who is just really weird and unsettling, but they keep going. They can't stop entertaining the guy because it would be too uncomfortable to leave. It's such an uncomfortable movie to watch, but it works so well.
Yeah.
And so obviously, and I've watched over the last month, I watched more like of the old slashers and stuff, and I've enjoyed those just for the campiness and the I love practical effects and all of that. So I've really been enjoying it. Yeah, horror is such a broad genre, and
It is. Yeah.
and so I don't think you could really, it'd be hard to really define it, like, because what's scary to someone isn't scary to someone else.
Right, yeah.
So
Speculation.
when you think of horror, I think you think of like The Conjuring, or like
Annabelle.
Yeah. Chucky.
Yeah.
Those types of movies. But it's really such a very broad genre. It even gets into like satirical kind of movies as well.
Yeah.
Scary movie.
Or even like Scream. I haven't actually watched it, but I think Scream is
dumb.
more satirical.
It's stupid. It's not even worth it.
No, but horror doesn't have to be campy. I think it's the great part about
But the
horror.
thing is, I've realized I've fallen in love to some extent with horror movies that are campy.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of amazed me because I went to this point where I was like, oh, I like elevated horror and like more like I don't know, like the psychological thriller stuff, and then I realized I started getting this appreciation for some of the older like, and I was like, oh, they're actually the better ones of these are actually pretty good. Like, there's a lot of terrible like rip-offs of horror movies because they can make them for so cheap, but it's obviously a very dark genre. Not everyone's going to like it because you have to think about things that are unpleasant to think about. But they are often very challenging movies and offer a lot of different interesting things that filmmakers can do to provoke the audience.
Yeah.
So that's my spiel on horror movies.
Yeah.
Well, horror movie is like one of my favorite genres, so I'm excited that we can do more of these things, Ben.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can do some more 80s campy one because I like those ones a lot.
Yeah.
But Travis, give your best summary of this movie in the way that it affected you.
And a rating out of 10 if you want to.
The best summary of the movie that a way that it affected me is made me want to become a cop a whole lot more.
Okay.
To protect people.
Yeah.
And I know that may sound cheesy or cliche, but in my brain, that's how it operates. So yes, it definitely did.
I felt the same way, but then I looked in a mirror and I was like, oh.
You never know. Maybe.
I mean, Zach still wants to help people and save people, but just in a
You're
in a different way, in
a less combative way, right? Yeah.
Hey, I can shoot syringes with the bow and arrow.
You can shoot a gun.
That's true.
And you can even learn how to fight, you know?
Yeah, Travis keeps inviting me to his gym.
Yeah.
I don't have the money for that. Travis is rich.
Do it for
Just joking.
Well, comparatively to us, yes.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, you guys are
10 years
fresh out of high school.
Yeah.
Of course it's going to be that way.
No, he's right. Well, Travis, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it. Hopefully we can do something again, and you'll be able to pick the movie again because, boy, oh boy, was this a great recommendation, Travis. I wouldn't have seen this movie if we weren't to do it on here.
I wanted to see this in theaters, but this gave me the push to actually do it, and it was, I mean, the jump scares, I didn't even mention this, but I actually flinched at, which is
I was with Ben. I saw it.
I don't know that I ever have done that in a movie theater because I've not seen that many horror movies in general. So that was awesome. I mean, it was awesome. I'm glad that we did this movie.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys like it, and thanks for inviting me. It's an honor to be on, and hopefully I'll be invited back on.
Oh, he definitely will. And we always usually see movies with Travis anyway. We go see the new Marvel movies with him. So
yeah.
But anyway, with that, Travis, we're good. We have everything. Let's plug our.
Plug our socials. We're really bad at this. So if you want to write us any emails about the episode, any questions for Travis, we can direct them to him. themovievaultpod@gmail.com, and follow us on our Instagram @themovievaultpod. We've been a little bit more active lately. Go like our post with Backstage Cinema.
I need to re-download
Probably
that.
our best post that we've ever done, because I didn't have to do it. It was a joint post that
Was that Leah?
Ike and Leah took care of it.
Thank you, you too.
And Leah's she's always sort of been on our account, but I think she's going to do more with being on the account. And I also want to announce that we are planning a trip next week. We're finalizing it tonight, so hopefully this actually happens and I don't have to eat my words next week. We're going to Indianapolis. We're going to the Indie Shorts Festival run by Heartland Film Festival, and we're going to watch a couple sets of short films on Saturday. We're going to give a recap of it. We'll be posting on social media.
The first Movie Vault special.
Yeah. And maybe we'll do some vlogging if we can pull it off. We'll see. No promises. But we're really excited. We've never been to a film festival. I mean, I've never been to a film festival.
Nope.
And it's close. We have no idea what to expect. It could be super lame. It could be really cool. But you'll be along for the ride with us.
Mm-hmm. Also, we have like a lot of YouTube stuff that we're meaning to post, but everything gets distorted when we send it. We're figuring it out, okay? I'm going to eat my words later, too.
All right. With that, Travis, we usually, to close out the episode, we have, since we're at the movie vault, we have the guest make an audible noise that represents the vault closing.
You close us in because Ben and I sleep in the vault. We live
Yeah, there's all kinds of lore and backstory about the vault. There's shelves of videotapes, and it's kind of just the place that.
Although we stream, the videotapes are for show.
Yeah, that's true. They're like cardboard cutouts, like at a museum.
And the cardboard cutout of us is in there too. With us. It's us four.
Usually,
and Phil.
I take my and Phil. Oh yeah, I forgot Phil was here.
Yep.
Okay.
So I just
you can make it does literally any noise if you don't want to make
I think I got it.
Okay.
All right. This is Sparta.